evening. Welcome to the People's Court and the Daily Report on Tuesday. This is Victor Moyakane, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to this very program. And of course, the first time we have the Princess of the People's Court, that is Linda Alela, back from assignment. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Karibu.
I went all the way to Turkana.
Oh yeah?
Nikauliza kama wanajua kuanguka nayo. I asked them whether they understand the Gen Z conversation, whether they understand everything to do with the cabinet. They have an idea.
Do you have evidence to boot, I wonder? Did you dance?
I did. 100%.
You'll be showing up.
Yes, you'll see that shortly.
Right. Now, tonight, the nation is ablaze with debate, conversations, intrigues, point and counterpoint, all about the cabinet. The cabinet, the cabinet. The list has been forwarded to Parliament.
Yes.
The nominees, and we wait to see how that process is going to go. But first, we want to look at it quite seriously.
The list has been forwarded, but with a bit of adjustments.
Yeah.
And that's what Kenyans are asking. Why these adjustments? But then again, we all appreciate the fact that the president has a prerogative to do that.
Absolutely. And
he has all rights whatsoever to make as many adjustments as he wishes. But the moment it gets to the level of Parliament, that's when now we get to know what they decide on. Whatever goes to Parliament is what we will consider final. Of course, adjustments from the defense and the environmental bit, and we'll be discussing that shortly.
Indeed, it is the highest decision-making organ in the country with a constitutional framework where it prescribes a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 22. For the very first time in such a long time, the numbers have become center stage as everyone wants to see, first of all, who is going to be inside, and of course, waiting to see who is not going to be inside, even as the young people who will be forming their People's Court tonight will be telling us whether they are satisfied and who they want to see in that cabinet. I am George Maringa. Welcome to the broadcast.
My name is Linda Alela, and then there is Victor Moyakane. Before we get to all that, the highlights.
Tonight, were the plans to storm Jomo Kenyatta International Airport during Tuesday's protests merely a distraction? Demonstrators focused their efforts on the central business district for the Tuesday protests. President William Ruto has formally submitted his cabinet nominees to Parliament for consideration and approval. The list delivered to the House by Speaker Moses Wetangula features significant changes, including the omission of Attorney General nominee Rebecca Miano. Plus, some Azimio MPs are adamant about securing cabinet positions. Meanwhile, ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna has stated that the party does not support appointing its members to the cabinet.
Indeed, we thank you for choosing TV47 to inform you. The socials where you can interact as from is at TV47 News, at Muyakane, at Linda_Alela, or at George Maringa_. Use the hashtag Daily Report, hashtag People's Court. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? Our SMS line is 22047. Start with your name, where you're watching us from, followed by a question, comment, or feedback regarding the program tonight. Gen Z protesters who had vowed to occupy the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA, during Tuesday's demonstrations stayed away from the key installation in what is turning out to have been probably a ploy to hoodwink the government into concentrating security officers at the airport and leave them to occupy the central business district of Nairobi. Mike Kagwango opens our broadcast tonight with that report.
This was the real situation at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport entrance. The security was beefed up at JKIA and roads leading to the airport. No protest was seen around the area. Later, anti-government demonstrators thronged Outer Ring Road before police officers lobbed tear gas canisters to disperse the swelling crowd. Normal operations went on at JKIA in the backdrop of fears that youthful protesters would occupy the busy airport after most of them spent the better part of Monday and Tuesday morning on social media sharing posts on how they would march to the airport. This Outer Ring Road remained barricaded lasted for hours despite deployment of military officers before demonstrators continued with their protests. In Kitengela, police arrested tens of protesters, turning the area into a ghost town for the better part of the day. Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja earlier stated that security agencies have decided to change tact, adding that they will be acting on intelligence in order to prevent crime during demos. He warned protesters against accessing protected areas.
Na sisi wote tuko na jukumu ya kuona ya kwamba nchi yetu iko sawasawa na iko na amani ya kutosha. Kwa hivyo mimi nawaomba na wauliza ya kwamba tujukumike sisi wote, tukijua ya kwamba hatuna mahali ingine, ni hii tu, hii ndio nchi yetu, hii Kenya. Hatuna Kenya ingine, iko mahali ingine.
Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike. Two marching groups emerged in Nairobi on Tuesday. On the one hand, a group that wanted the protests brought to an end and President William Ruto given a chance to work, and on the other hand, those against President Ruto's administration. And as Sheila Chelangat reports, the protests in the CBD on Tuesday were less chaotic compared to those witnessed in the past few weeks. Take a look.
Another Tuesday, and just like it was during the past 4 Tuesdays, the city once again came to a standstill. Most businesses shut and anti-riot police patrolling every corner of the city under the sun. However, what was different was this group of pro-government protesters who, riding atop motorbikes, stormed the CBD carrying placards. Their message was clear. It's time for the protests to end and let the president work. In their hundreds, they rode around the CBD as city dwellers stood aside, watching the events unfold. However, this group was not so lucky, as there were allegations that some members were involved in theft, inciting the wrath of the traders and city residents against them, burning this motorcycle. Nairobi Police Commander Adamson Bungei also arrived in the CBD area with a promise that goons will not be allowed to disrupt the activities of Kenyans. He was, however, forced to leave as the chants of the protesters became wilder. Protests in Nairobi CBD were largely peaceful from 12 p.m. onwards. Cases of tear gas and running battles were barely witnessed around the city centre, unlike the past 4 Tuesdays of protests. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
Thank you, Sheila. Githurai 44 became a chaotic scene for most of Tuesday as protesters blocked the major highway connecting Roysambu and Kahawa West via Githurai 44. Special units from the police department who were not in uniform provided backup for the police operation, which lasted about 40 minutes. The situation escalated, forcing the police to use guns to disperse the protesters.
Githurai 44 turned into a battleground between police and protesters on Tuesday. Starting from 1 p.m., police struggled to restore order and clear the streets, with their efforts proving futile as the roads remained blocked and impassable. Protesters had blocked the road leading to Kahawa West with stones and burning tires, and as time went on, the situation deteriorated further. Police officers were overwhelmed by the rowdy youth who continued to clash along the busy road. The situation evolved into a cat-and-mouse game, prompting the police to call for backup to manage the unruly youth. Reinforcements from a special unit arrived in a Subaru vehicle with the registration number plate KDC 261E, bringing non-uniformed personnel to assist in the operation, with fears that among the protesters were goons intending to loot from local shops.
Maandamano inafaa kila mahali, kama vile walikuwa nasema wataenda JKIA, inafaa kila mahali. Sababu huyu jamaa anafaa kushuka. Haifai kujulikana ati kama ni JKIA ama ni kwa estate. Kila mahali, hata kama ni Ocha ama ni wapi, huyu jamaa anafaa shuke. Kama saa kama hiyo finance bill ingepita. Sasa unalipia nyumba yako iko Ocha, lakini unalipia rent. Unajipata unalipia rent vitu kama hizo. Kama land ya kuinherit unapata hata hiyo land unalipia sijui ushuru.
Demonstrators not only blocked Githurai 44, but also extended their protest to Kahawa West. The situation caused a standstill, with business owners hesitant to open their shops due to the escalating unrest. On the road connecting Marurui and Kahawa West, rowdy youth obstructed the busy route with stones and burning tires, giving police a tough time as they attempted to restore order for about 30 minutes. In Kahawa West, police had to use tear gas canisters to disperse the youth who had blocked roads, as some individuals even started hurling stones at a supermarket.
The protest that lasted for about 1 month is turning out to be murky and messy, as the government is trying to use special units to deal with the rowdy youth who are trying to block this particular road connecting Roysambu and Githurai 44. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Githurai 44, Nairobi.
Thank you, Paul. One person was shot dead while others injured during the anti-government protests in Kakamega town. And as Violet Auma reports, many businesses remained closed and transport along Kakamega-Webuye Road paralyzed for hours following the protest.
This was the situation for the better part of the afternoon in Kakamega town. Police engaged anti-government protesters in a running battle. The police were forced to lob tear gas canisters to disperse the youths who had barricaded roads with stones. One person died on the spot after suffering gunshot wounds, while others, among them 3 police officers, were rushed to Kakamega Referral Hospital for treatment. Police also confronted protesters at Juakali area who wanted to enter the central business district, where many of the businesses remained closed. Human rights defenders in Kakamega have condemned the killing, asking the police to desist from using excessive force towards protesters.
Kuna kijana mmoja alipigwa risasi amefariki, bahati mbaya. Na mwingine amepigwa risasi kwa mguu, kwa pacha, na amepelekwa hospitali. Ile kitu tuliona mbaya ni polisi kuanza kutumia nguvu zaidi kwa vijana. Na mpaka sasa hizi bado tungali tuko town, hatujui nini itatokeza kwa sababu kunazo mbio za vijana na
They have also asked the government and the youths to give room for dialogue for stability and prosperity of the nation.
So polisi warudisha chini makali yao. Na serikali ikae chini isungumuza na vijana.
Tujibebe na ubabe wetu. Tupate kusikizana, tukae kwa meza moja ili tupate kuleta amani katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Tukiibomoa wenyewe tutaumia siku zijazo.
Reporting for TV47, I'm Violet Auma.
Thank you, Violet. As the country continues to witness running battles between police and protesters, residents of Kilifi and Mombasa are asking for accountability from the police. This is after an incident where police shot a newspaper vendor with a tear gas canister, badly injuring him. The worst part is that he cannot speak or hear. On the other hand, in Kilifi County, cases of insecurity and lack of action by police have instigated anger among the residents. Have a look.
We are very peaceful and we are not going to accept to be intimidated. No!
This is the aftermath of alleged police brutality in Mombasa County, leaving the victim with anger and frustration. What's worse is he cannot hear or speak to express himself easily. So what really happened?
Kazi hapa, polisi walikuja wakarusha tear gas, ikampiga hapa, ikaweza kumpiga hapa. Anasema iliweza kumuumiza, hospital went.
The injuries are serious, and according to medics, he might not be able to see with both eyes again, something that will worsen his situation. The incident causing quite a stir among Kenyans, with Haki Africa condemning the alleged police brutality.
La ambulance la Marafiki Foundation ambao waliweza kufika kwa haraka, tukaweza kumchukua na kumpeleka hospitali. Lakini kile tunazungumza kama watetezi wa haki za kibinadamu, polisi waache kutumia excessive force.
In another incident at Magarini in Kilifi County, residents are frustrated by what they term as negligence by police officers in the region, citing rising cases of insecurity. This is after 2 businessmen narrowly escaped death after an attack by robbers in separate incidents.
amepigwa risasi nyuma ya police station wako pale, polisi wako pale police station, jamaa risasi zimelia pale.
The irate residents are now demanding that the police officers in the region be transferred so that others can be brought in to improve the situation.
Iwa hiki kilio kinaweza kusikika. Polisi walioko Gongoni waondolewe wote, Jesi na askari wake wanalala, jamaa anapigwa risasi kwenye kambi. Hao jamaa anafanya kazi gani usiku?
Vera Alberta reporting for TV47.
Thank you, Vera. Ugandan police have arrested several protesters who attempted to march onto Parliament on Tuesday as the capital, Kampala, woke to heavy security and armored military trucks patrolling the streets. Ugandan President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni said the protests were being fueled by the opposition, which he accused of having foreign interests. But demonstrators say they are protesting against widespread corruption. Isabel Nakiria reports.
Small groups of protesters converged from different directions on Kampala's central business district. They held placards denouncing corruption and called for the resignation of the Speaker of Parliament. Some sang heroic songs to show their displeasure.
It's actually heartbreaking what's happening in the country, because corruption affects a lot of things in this country, especially health, education. All these sectors are affected by the rampant corruption because they don't receive the necessary funds for them to function properly.
The demos hardly got started before the protesters were jostled into waiting military and police trucks and whisked off. It's been largely calm in Kampala, with people going about their businesses. Some people opted to stay away for fear of chaos erupting. Police also sealed off all roads leading to Parliament. The protesters intended to deliver a petition to Parliament, but President Museveni vowed to crush the protests if they pressed ahead. Several members of Parliament are already in prison facing corruption charges.
When you demonstrate in a place like Kampala, people are sitting on the roadside. They are sitting on the roadside. When I pass by boys there, they have got their chairs on the roadside. Are you going to step in people's products or trample their chairs, their furniture? You are playing. Do not have such ideas in your head.
Politicians and civil society have asked the government to allow peaceful protests, pointing to sweeping corruption in the country. But riot police and the military maintain their presence on the streets to prevent any more protests. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN Kampala, Uganda.
Indeed, thank you for that report. Back to Kenya, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, ODPP, has stated that it received 4 files and accompanying reports from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, regarding the deaths and injuries witnessed during the 2024 anti-finance bill protests in different parts of the country last month. Have a look.
The Director of Public Prosecutions has stated today that on the 19th of June 2024, his office received 4 files and reports of 4 victims of police brutality witnessed during the 2024 anti-finance bill protests.
The 19th of June 2024, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions received 4 files accompanying with reports from the IPOA related to deaths and injuries during the protests across various parts of the country.
According to the ODPP, the 4 files include of the death of Rex Masai Kanyike, who was shot along Moi Avenue during the 2024 anti-finance bill protests, Dominic Wanjala Mutua, who was injured by a tear gas canister during the 2024 protests.
The first one was injury to Mr. Dominic Wanjala Mutua. I note that the main suspect in that case denied ever firing a tear gas canister The second file was in relation to the death of Rex Kanyeki Masai.
The third file was that of investigations on the death of Evans Kiratu, one of the protesters who was shot by police and later died while fighting for his life at the Kenyatta National Hospital. With the fourth file being that of Gianna Makel Obonyo, who was shot while riding a bicycle in her parents' compound and was later admitted at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
The fourth case was that of shooting of Gianna Makel Obonyo. Gianna Makel Obonyo on the 25th of June 2024 suffered a gunshot wound at the lower back while riding a bicycle in her parents' compound.
According to the Director of Public Prosecution, the IPOA has not conducted sufficient investigations for the 4 cases so as to bring those responsible to account.
I shall review the case and make further directions once the investigation file is resubmitted with the ballistic report.
He further called upon members of the public and all witnesses to come forward and cooperate with the IPOA for easy investigations by the authorities.
I call upon any person with information pertaining to this case, especially the witnesses who took the deceased to hospital and those who witnessed the shooting, to come forward and record a statement with IPOA.
With all the riddles of deaths and injuries from police brutality witnessed in the country during the protests, the families of those who lost their kins have been left with nothing but memories and hope that the system will ensure that justice will be served to their slain kins. Mira Mohammed, TV47.
Thank you, Mohammed. Tonight, President William Ruto has surprised Parliament and the nation after swapping the names of cabinet nominees Aden Duale and Soipan Tuya in a note to the National Assembly. According to the President's list to the National Assembly seeking the House approval, Duale has been moved to the Environment Ministry, while Soipan is now the Defense Cabinet Secretary nominee. In yet another surprising move, Attorney General nominee Rebecca Miano was missing from the list of 10 cabinet nominees. Apollo Kamau reports.
The reassignment of cabinet nominee Aden Duale in a note to Parliament from the lucrative defense docket to the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, where he replaces Soipan Tuya, who takes over the defense portfolio, left tongues wagging in Parliament as MPs demanded to know why the swap, barely a week after President William Ruto announced his first cabinet of 11 last week.
Honorable Aden Bare Duale, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry.
Mr. Speaker, what the President announced is definitely different from what you have read to us. Mr. Speaker, at that point alone, the public will not really have confidence in what we are doing.
The two CS nominees were quick to thank the President, with Duale quoting the Quran, saying what may look bad might actually be good, while thanking the President for the reassignment, stating he will focus on the ministry's agenda. Soipan, who now becomes the third woman under the 2010 Constitution, after Rachel Mamo and Dr. Monica Juma, to head the Defense Ministry, said she will give it all to serve Kenyans.
I want to tell members, my colleagues, that vetting of this CSS is not going to be business as usual. This time, Mr. Speaker, and this time, Mr. Speaker, I repeat for the third time, if somebody is not suitable, if somebody is not capable, if somebody doesn't have the capacity, we are going to throw him out, Mr. Speaker.
We do not also expect that we are going, or His Excellency the President is going to appoint angels into cabinet. So, in as much as Honorable Junet is here threatening those nominees, even him, Honorable Junet, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. And therefore, he must not stand here and threaten the careers of other Kenyans as if he's a very clean man.
Aden Duale, a vocal and veteran politician who once served as Jubilee Party Majority Leader, is known for his assertiveness and strong opinions, which according to sources is said to have unsettled officials at the Department of Defense. With President Ruto expected to name his second batch of nominees from Wednesday, The 10 nominees will now face the Appointments Committee, chaired by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, which has 28 days to conclude the vetting exercise. It's still unclear why Attorney General nominee Rebecca Miano